We are often asked for tools and ideas of things to do for progressing through each of the levels of English toward fluency. What people don't realize is there are some very similar characteristics in each level that characterize whether something is actually going to be a good tool that is actually helpful for you or not.
So let's talk about it. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Wagwell Friends English. We have talked a lot about shifting gears on this channel, quite a bit. But the question is, if you are in these different stages of fluency when you're studying English, what are the tools that need to be changing as you progress?
Especially if you're studying in your own country, you're not surrounded by English, and you're kind of doing it by yourself. What do you need to know?
As a beginner, you will use a lot of TPR, total physical response, where you're using a lot of body language and miming and facial expressions, hand motions, in order to understand and communicate meaning.
You're using a lot of pictures and talking about what's happening in those pictures, using things like wall boards, like you're putting things together of different images of things on the same topic, and you're talking about those and organizing them into a board to bring different vocabulary together on the same topic.
You also do a lot of parroting and even using material designed for kids. We have done this. We have benefited greatly from these tools because they help you kind of connect your brain to like physical things in that language. Right. We play a game with a lot of our students called Simon Says. It's a great game for beginners because they connect sounds that people are making with their mouths with parts of their body or actions they're supposed to be doing. This is a great tool for beginner learners.
Right. You also use a lot of simple worksheets to work through simple grammar so that you can begin to express the things around you. Because obviously if you just learn vocabulary, you could do that, but you could also leave people in a lot of confusion.
Yeah, and it also gives the student a lot of tangible physical things to look at, not just audio and that's it.
But how does the intermediate toolbox differ from that of the beginner?
So somewhere between high beginner and low intermediate, you're going to start to shift into more complex things. So instead of just simple parroting, you're going to start to have simple conversations. You're going to start to have some back and forth dialogues, maybe even some skits, or even maybe a little bit of drama.
On the grammar side, you're going to do a lot more complex worksheets. You're going to do more with grammar. You're going to be dealing with up through to high intermediate grammar. You may even be doing some precursory exploring of advanced grammar because you're going to start hearing that a little bit. Now, there's a lot that you don't hear at the intermediate levels in a conversation when a native speaker is speaking. You've learned how to grab keywords that you know from your vocabulary knowledge that you carry in from beginner and that you build upon as an intermediate, but you don't hear everything. You don't hear whether somebody's saying has or was or is necessarily. You are listening for the main things like the nouns and the main verbs. So in this period, you're going to be working on trying to expand your ability to listen to these smaller words and these articles and start to notice them a little bit more so that ideally by high intermediate, you can hear them. Maybe you're not necessarily registering them and saying, oh, they're using the past perfect progressive. That's not the goal here. But the goal is that you start to understand what they mean when you start to hear these smaller sounds in the way that native speakers butcher them completely by just making them an S or smashing them into the question word in front of them. Like, what's going on with you?
Yeah. And in reading, you're going to be working on scanning and skimming. A lot of the materials that you will encounter in the intermediate stage, it's kind of a mixture of there's some slightly more difficult ESL content, but then you're also going to kind of be dabbling in more tangible, real native content. So this may be things like product reviews on Amazon or an application in some doctor's office. You're going to be encountering real life worksheets that you might actually encounter when you live in another country.
Right. And as an intermediate, you're focusing on getting that keyword knowledge of the things that you do understand, learning to couple that with some of the grammar that you have learned to try to glean meaning from that. So that even if you're sitting in a doctor's office looking over these forms, you don't know every single word, but ideally you'll be able to get the gist of what's being said. That is a big goal for an intermediate speaker.
When you start to roll into advanced English, things start changing a little bit in the fact that you're not trying to get this broad, wide understanding of English. Hopefully that has already happened. In this stage, you're kind of specializing your English a little bit more.
Yes, you need to be understanding the grammar that you're looking at. That's part of a big goal in the advanced levels. But you're also expanding your vocabulary a little bit, but that's not the main push here. Vocabulary is not the main push in advanced English. Grammar is a bigger push than vocabulary is, but it's not absolutely crucial to what you need to be doing. What you need to be doing is gaining practical skills. You need to be taking native content and you need to be looking for nuances and meanings and implications. Now, you're not going to pick up all of those at first. By the time you are high advanced, ideally though, you are. You're going to be able to see tone and style. You're going to be able to see depth of meaning. You're going to be able to see a little bit of what the author's intention is behind what they are writing. This is extremely important for reading comprehension at the advanced levels. Likewise, in listening, you're going to be doing something very similar. You're going to be seeing a bigger picture. You're going to be seeing the paralanguage that they have. You're going to be paying attention to their intonation. You're going to hear the words that they say and the way that they say them to understand and tie that to the context and what you know from background information to be able to better interpret what they really mean. Not necessarily what they just say. An intermediate's listening for what they say, but an advanced speaker is looking for what they mean.
All of that necessitates a lot of native resources, a lot of native reading and writing, a lot of native listening and speaking. You are going to be kind of wading deep into the language pool to try to get and acquire the way that we break the rules. Whether that's in American English or British English, you are trying to figure out what do they actually say. Now, what should they say? Now, what my English book says they should say. What do they really say?
Right. So to get to this point, the Advanced English Learner's Toolbox looks like human resources in a way. They need to have some kind of tutor, a teacher, or native English-speaking friend who is willing to sit down and discuss, to read the same thing they're reading, to listen to the same things they're listening to, and discuss them. You've got to have this time where you are doing something with what you hear and read, because if you don't, you're not working on advanced skills. You're not getting to fluency very efficiently at all. You're just memorizing more things like you did when you were an intermediate. So it is crucial, it's absolutely crucial to be working with native material with native speakers to some degree. And I get that this is hard. Of course, there are brilliant people who have learned a language without speaking at all to someone else, but that is very, very rare. It is not very common to do this. And also, somebody who passes a test doesn't guarantee that they can actually communicate well in English. It just means that they can pass a test. It's different.
One thing that is missing from an advanced learner's toolbox, surprisingly, is a lot of worksheets. Yes, you will be doing some, especially for some complex grammar, but generally speaking, you're going to use those as talking points for other things, because the thing you need most is feedback. And feedback is custom to you, custom to your voice, custom to the mistakes that you make, custom to your L1, your first language. I can't make an advanced worksheet that's going to work for every single one of my students. I need to make it to where this is for you. You struggle with saying this consonant cluster, so we need to practice on that consonant cluster if we're going to reduce your accent so you can be better understood.
So whoever it is that you get to step into your life to help you grow to fluency, make sure that they are giving you detailed feedback. Make sure they're organizing it for you, or that you have a system that you yourself can organize for your own study. It's somebody who can keep you accountable and push you where you are weak, and someone who can see the things that you don't see or hear yourself. This is why studying by yourself in the advanced levels is tricky. Yes, you can understand the grammar. Yes, you can get the vocabulary words, but you don't really know where you are. You know a lot, but you don't know how much you're actually implementing. Of course, when you're writing, you can see that you write well, you can stick it into Grammarly, or you can ask the AI to evaluate it and it'll give you a score. But with your speaking, are you using spoken grammar in the right way? Of course, writing is easier by yourself, but speaking, that's where it's really hard to tell. You could record yourself and listen back and record yourself and listen back, but again, you only know the mistakes that you yourself know are a mistake. So it's very important to have somebody else on the outside who's a native speaker to really catch what you mean and make sure that you are communicating clearly and accurately.
You don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And you're going to need a native speaker to be able to bring those things up. Particularly, so an English teacher, not just a native speaker, because a lot of native English speakers, they don't actually know why they break the rules that they do.
So let's say that you have no resources. You're not able to pay for a private tutor. You don't know any American friends. What can you do? There are great communities on YouTube. You can reach out to the free programs or the free communities out there on YouTube and you can learn. If you found this video, you're probably one of those people that have done that. Step number 2 is you need to be mimicking. You need to be parroting as much as possible. You need to watch something, practice, watch, practice, watch, practice, record yourself or watch yourself in a mirror and practice that way. The hardest part with that though is you need to have some kind of response. So again, if you can find a free community where that's possible, then do that. But also note that any free communities you use, it's all free stuff and it's free for a reason.
Yeah.
It's free because it might not be fully organized. It's free because it doesn't take a lot of time from the person that is doing it, or it's not something that they have to manage actively all the time. Free things usually have some kind of distance. But we're talking about the Advanced Language Learners Toolbox. In order to get to fluency much faster, they've got to be working with somebody. If you're trying to get there quick and you're trying to get there efficiently, then you need somebody to help you.
You have to close that distance.
Yes. If you are looking for a low-cost option to be able to get some kind of interaction, you can sign up for our program through Fluency Fast Track. And of course, we do things here at Why Will Friends English. We do as much free as we can, but we give more of our attention to those who are in our paid community. If you want even more tailored attention, we've got options for that as well at Fluency Fast Track. So you guys can go check that out at the link below in the description.
Thank you guys so much for always watching these videos. We really appreciate that, and we will catch you on the next one.